I am Raven Hill, Senior Executive Director of Communications for the Maryland State Department of Education, and joined today by Dr. Carrie Wright, State Superintendent of Schools, and Dr. Josh Michael, President of the State Board of Education. At this time, I will turn this over to Dr. Wright to give remarks.
Okay. Thank you, and good morning, and thanks everybody for coming today. In exactly 1 week, we will celebrate the first day of school in Maryland as Frederick and St. Mary's counties open their doors for the 25-26 school year. Throughout the coming weeks, other districts will welcome students, families, and educators until the last first day of school on September 2nd. This year, our commitment to student success has never been stronger. We are focused on several key priorities that will drive student achievement. First, attendance. Every day matters. We are working closely with districts to ensure that our students are present, engaged, and supported. Reducing chronic absenteeism takes a community-wide approach. Health providers, faith-based leaders, government officials, and athletic coaches also play a role in spreading the message that every day matters. Second, this school year marks the first full year to roll out our comprehensive literacy and mathematics policies. These new standards help to more clearly establish what students should know and be able to do at each grade level. When we release the results from the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, or MCAP as it's called, later this month, we will have a better sense of where our strategies are working and where we must accelerate progress. Third, this school year will also see continued investments in professional learning for our teachers and our school leaders. Through instructional coaching and targeted training, we are equipping teachers with the tools that they need to deliver high-quality instruction and meet the diverse needs of their students. We're also proud to help connect federal workforce talent to Maryland's classrooms by creating pathways for displaced federal workers to become educators. This will help address teacher shortages while bringing valuable experience into our schools. Our school systems have done great work over the summer to highlight openings and opportunities in local districts. Alternative teacher certification programs can now serve as that pathway to a new career. Finally, despite changes at the federal level, we remain focused on teaching and learning. The focus of the State Department of Education remains on shielding schools as best we can and helping them navigate the changing landscape. As we begin this new school year, I want to thank our educators, school leaders, families, and community partners. Your dedication and collaboration are what make Maryland's education system strong. From the first day of school to the last, we want Marylanders to know that our mission is to prepare the 890,000 students for life beyond our classrooms through strong teaching, learning, and leadership. And now I'm pleased to introduce someone who shares that commitment and brings a strong voice for educational leadership across the state, Dr. Joshua Michael, who is president of the Maryland State Board of Education. Josh.
Thank you, Dr. Wright, and good morning. This is truly the most wonderful time of the year. The dawn of the coming school year represents great hope and possibility for our state and each of our 890,000 children. As some of you in the room know, I am also a proud public school dad. And in our home, we are actively preparing our second daughter, Caroline, for her first day of full-day public pre-K. We couldn't be more excited to live in a state that values and invests in early learning through public pre-K. My daughter's future and that of 40,000 four-year-olds across Maryland will be better because of it. When I talked to Caroline this morning, though, she wanted me to let you know that she is not 4, but in fact 4.5. Across the country, fellow parents and family members are asking, are public schools right for my child? Here is my message to fellow Maryland parents and families. It is our privilege to serve you and our children, and our goal is to continue to earn your trust. We believe in the greatness of your child. We are working tirelessly to build public schools that match her God-given potential. And here's what we've been up to. We are building a world-class public education system here in Maryland, and we are focused on the fundamentals. First, as Dr. Wright said, attendance matters. We need your help getting every young person to school every day. Remember, 80% of success is showing up, whether that's at school or in the workplace. Help us spread this message to children and families alike. Just like in my house, this is an all-hands effort. Second, a rock-solid foundation in reading and mathematics. We've adopted new standards at the state board, as well as a literacy policy and a math policy, all aligned to research of the science of reading and instruction. We are maintaining high standards for all children. We are getting better at focusing in our curriculum, and we are improving how we teach. Third, we are continuing to reform the high school experience in Maryland so that our high schoolers are engaged in relevant college and career pathways. This means more apprenticeships, internships, dual enrollment, and world-class career learning. Our public schools are only as strong as the people who lead our classrooms. That's why our primary strategy for improving schools is investing in our teachers through professional development, coaching, and classroom resources. We are excited to welcome 3,000 new teachers to the profession this fall, and we are excited to continue advancing the careers of the returning over 60,000 professionals across the state who will return to the classroom and schools this fall. Thank you for joining us. Again, the dawn of the new school year represents such great potential in our young children and our young people. It is truly the most wonderful time of the year. We look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Michael and Dr. Wright. Everyone, if you could please raise your hand and give your name and news outlet. Start with Kirsten.
Kristen Griffith with the Baltimore Banner. Wanted to know if you all have seen an improvement in teacher vacancies, and if so, do you think that's connected to budget cuts that a lot of school systems had to do this past budget season?
So we are not hearing the hue and cry, if you will, of a lot of vacancies across the state. I think the superintendents, this is a primary job that they take very seriously in reducing any kind of vacancy rate. It's always best if you can make sure that you've got a teacher in every classroom that is needed. But that's something that we continue to work with them on, and we are tracking that. We will have the data. Typically, we collect our data by the end of September. So around October-ish, we should be able to have that final count for you.
Thank you. Will?
Hello. All right. I thought I was messing up. Moving forward with Maryland Matters, I'll ask just one question and let everybody in the room because I have several. But I'll start with this one. You mentioned about the 3,000 new teachers. You happen to know how many are those individuals who came from the federal government who were let go?
I don't have that figure, Will, off the top of my head, but that's something that we can get for you.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Ray Rogowski with Fox 45. Dr. Wright, this will be your second full year as Maryland State Superintendent. What would make this year a success for you? You know, sitting here a year from now, what metrics would you be pointing to? Say, this was a great year too for me.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a good year. It's been an exciting year. There's been a lot that's been happening. I think that for me, I get great joy in knowing that we're focusing on core instruction, being a teacher at heart. So I'm going to be looking to see how well we continue to improve student outcomes across the state. We've got a new kindergarten assessment that's going into play in the fall. We'll be looking at our assessment results in spring. I think the implementation of our literacy policy and our math policy, and knowing that will benefit children in the classroom and also students overall. We are getting ready to also put together an adolescent literacy policy. This is something that the field has been asking about. We've got our pre-K through grade 3, obviously, which focuses on early literacy, but we've got a lot of little ones that still struggle with reading in middle school and high school. So that adolescent literacy policy is something that we're going to be using as well. We're also excited about a lot of the professional learning that we have planned. I mean, we have a lot of professional learning for teachers and leaders that is going to be for free, and the team has been working very hard to make sure that we're meeting everybody's needs there. Philanthropy has come alongside us, helping as well. We're going to be looking at our pilots around the high-dosage tutoring that's going on from Philanthropy. Philanthropy is also helping us provide coaches in some of our districts, so monitoring that and seeing what the impact that coaching can have on classroom instruction and, more importantly, on student outcomes. So we're very outcome focused here, and if you come to our board meeting in August, you're going to see the list of outcomes that we've put together that we are going to be focusing on moving forward in the state. And that is all around student achievement, teacher development, making sure that we've got all the teachers and leaders that we need across the state. Because not only do we have a teacher shortage nationally, but we also are working to figure out how do we address our leadership shortage as well. So lots to look forward to, but those outcomes will very clearly identify what we're expecting to see by the end of the year.
I'll just add, if I can, when we look at outcomes, we at the board are going to be looking, when we talk with Dr. Wright, we're going to be looking at attendance metrics. Mm-hmm. We're going to be, the core things, right, and reading and math achievement. And then we're going to be looking, beyond that. Success will look like incremental progress year over year over year. That is exactly what Dr. Wright did in Mississippi. That's why we were so interested in her coming here in Maryland. This is not about a one-year jump. If you were to see a major one-year jump, there would be questions about why things move so quickly. We're looking to do the work of improving public schools over a decade. It requires steady progress year over year over year. And Dr. Wright has been leading this work. She is, a principal at her heart, right? And this is the way she led schools. This is the way she helped lead districts. This is the way she's led at the state, which is steady progress, focusing on the fundamentals, and that's the work that we expect to see.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jonathan Hunter with CTV News. You mentioned a few times that you have a new literacy and math program that you guys are rolling out this year. Mm-hmm. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on, I guess, the specific details of the plan?
So it's not a program; it's a policy. But let me also add to that. You're a little close there too, because we also revised our English language arts and math standards as well. So in fact, by the end of this summer, all standards will have been updated. So English language arts, math, social studies, science, health, and PE. Because those had not been updated in over a decade. So you start with what you want all kids to know and be able to do in terms of standards, and that we did first, while the policies were being developed. So the policies provide guidance to districts around what are we expecting to see in terms of progress monitoring, what are we expecting to see in terms of parent involvement. So our literacy policy, as you know, anytime that a school is making a recommendation around retention, then there is a whole section of the policy that says this is how parents are to be involved, and ultimately it will be a parent's decision. But when children are struggling, we also want to make sure that parents know about that at the very beginning of the year, so that's in the policy. So it's kind of like guiding the work of what's happening in classrooms through policy implementation. The same is true with mathematics. Now, math was a little bit different because we are changing a lot of our math pathways at the high school level. So there's a lot of direction then around when those courses are going to be developed, when we start implementing them, et cetera. And then also how we are going to be looking at the state for all that progress monitoring data to be collected so that we can actually get a feel for what's happening at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year, because that informs our work when it comes to providing professional learning for teachers or leaders. So if we see that there's something that's kind of in common across the state that's needed, that's how we use our statewide data, to be honest with you, then that's how we then look at those data and then make decisions around what do we think that teachers, what kind of help can we be providing teachers? Because I think that's our job, is to build teacher and leader capacity across the state. And so what kind of data are we looking at in order to inform the decisions that we make where that's concerned?
I think the thing that I'm most excited about the policies, and this is what should change for parents in the next year, couple years, is that there should be much more conversation starting very early in elementary school between schools and families about how students are progressing. So if students are struggling, to learn to read in kindergarten and first grade, that conversation is starting and happening between home and family regularly and much earlier. That's what family members should expect from public schools. They should get progress monitoring. If they're struggling, the school and the families are developing plans to figure out how they're going to ensure that that student actually makes progress. We should not get to the end of third grade and have a student that's not reading, and that's the first time we're having the conversation when they've taken an assessment, for a state assessment for the first time. So that conversation there, and then in math, very similarly, we are not just teaching grade level curriculum and the grade level standards. We are teaching children so they can meet grade level expectations and beyond. That includes accelerated content in early grades, in late elementary school and middle school and beyond in high school, so that students actually have access to accelerated math pathways and at the same time, if they're not quite mastering the grade level material, that they're getting that support and that there is communication between home and school to wrap around all of our young people.
That's a really key concept, and I don't want to pass that by because Dr. Michael said it so eloquently, but the idea that you can provide acceleration to a child to just about any time in their career is huge. So that because somebody said, well, somebody thought that we were trying to cap children like at a grade level. It's like, no. Any child that can handle accelerated material needs to be exposed and learning accelerated material. And that is a key piece of what's in our policy too. So so if you look at the policy, you'll see little snippets of things that we're trying to make sure that all kids' needs are being met, whether they're struggling or whether they're accelerating.
All right, thank you for answering my question.
Hi, Nicole Asbury with the Washington Post. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
I just had a quick question. Just, you mentioned that at the federal level there have been changes. I know earlier there was issues with ESSER funding, but can you elaborate a little bit more on, since there's been cuts being implemented to the U.S. Department of Education, has that caused any operational issues on your end? I mean, what exactly has that looked like, and what action exactly have you been taking to shield LEAs from all of that?
That's a really good question, because it has been rather tumultuous this spring. As you know, we had received a lot of ESSER funding. All the states did. I'm going to lump it all under ESSER. They each had a title, but I'm going to lump it under ESSER funding. And it had already been allocated to the states in terms of the allocation designations. We'd received that, and then all of a sudden we received information that we weren't going to get those funds. And it wasn't just Maryland. I'm speaking for all the state chiefs. None of the states were getting their funds. So that really did cause angst on the superintendent's parts, as you can well imagine, and on locals, because they had already spent money knowing that they were going to get reimbursed for these expenditures that were allowable expenditures. And the feds gave us a whole list of things that were allowable expenditures, so the superintendents were very well aware of what they could spend money on and what they couldn't, and then they were anticipating that money coming back in. Then the federal government changed its mind and decided to send some of the title dollars back to us, which was very helpful, but not all the title dollars. And so that information, you just need to know that every time we got something from the feds, the superintendents were informed of it immediately so that they knew how to plan accordingly. Because some of these title dollars that we received, some of the superintendents are using those funds for personnel. So if you're not getting money, then how are you going to fund some of these positions? And as they're starting to build budgets and thinking about budgets, they depend on that federal money. We've now received, so then they came back and said, okay, now we're going to give you all the federal money, the title dollars that you're given. I'll talk about ESSER in just a second. So right now, we have received from the feds about $398.5 million this year, and that's about an 8.7% drop from the prior year. The good news is that the money is here. The bad news is it is less than it was this year. ESSER is a little more complicated because as of the end of September, we were supposed to be able to reimburse districts for all of the money that they had expended. And we held off on that because we were not sure that we were going to get reimbursed from the feds. And our job was to reimburse the districts. I'm trying to make this as simple as I can. But what we found out was the feds then came back and said, okay, you can go ahead and reimburse. So we started reimbursing. And right now we have reimbursed the districts about $180.4 million that they had already spent. However, we are still waiting on $232 million from the feds. So that money has not come in as promised. And so that information is to be used to make those kinds of decisions that are critical. All of these monies that the districts are using, they're using not only for people, but for resources, for professional learning, addressing the needs of multilingual learners, after-school programming, homeless children. I mean, it's a variety of things that they're spending their money on. And the good news is that the title dollars have come in. But the bad news is we're still waiting to reimburse the districts because we are now waiting for the money to come in from the feds. So it does cause issues, as you can well imagine. If you've already spent money out and expecting to get your paycheck and your paycheck's not coming in and it's already gone out the door.
Nicole, education has been, will continue to be, and in the future, primarily a focus of the states. In this state, we are deeply committed to building a world-class public education system. That hasn't changed. That's still the case. What has been frustrating for us as a state board is that in a state where less than 10% of our funding comes from the federal government, well more than 10% of the time of the State Department of Education has been focused on determining what funds are coming and going from the federal government, given the high levels of turbulence, policy turbulence, and disruption that are coming from the federal government. So in some ways, this is the most inefficient Department of Education we've ever engaged with in the state. And so that level of uncertainty and policy turbulence has our team focused on determining whether that piece of the pie that is critical for serving specific student populations is going to come or not, instead of focusing on supporting the 1,400 schools that serve our 890,000 students. So our focus, we've spent more time talking about federal funding at the State Board of Education in the past 8 months than we have in decades. And so I think it's just important to note that Dr. Wright and her team are working on it and doing the best we can, but we're spending outsized amount of time and energy determining what is and is not going to happen with the federal government.
I'll give you a real specific example of that too. My entire literacy team and math team are funded under Titles 2 and 3. So when the word was we weren't getting Titles 2 and 3, I said, how can you run an educational system and support teachers without anybody in literacy and mathematics? And so we were more than grateful, needless to say, when the money finally came. But you can also picture what that's doing to people in their lives when they know that their job is dependent on federal funding. And so, and that's one of the reasons that we really started a strong communication. I mean, even since I've been here, I think superintendents would tell you that, a strong communication from the department to the superintendents so that they're always aware of what is going on and that they're not caught off guard.
Kristen Griffith again. Mm-hmm. We've seen some drama with local school boards with everything that's happened in Somerset County, and last week Calvert County just removed its anti-racism policy. Is there concern from you all about political influence, I guess, infiltrating local school boards?
Well, we're doing the best that we can to work and keep the focus on student instruction and making sure that what's happening in the classroom is not impacted by adult decision-making, let's say. I think that it's something that we have to be aware of. It's something that we provide support to the superintendents across the state where that's concerned. I think that what's important to me is what's happening in the classroom on a daily basis, and that we've got local school boards abiding by the law, and state law is very specific about what they're expected to know and be able to do. So we've tried to provide the guidance accordingly where that's concerned, and that will just be an ongoing collaboration between the department and local boards and local superintendents.
I think, Kristen, also really important to note, and for the public, that in Maryland we have a state public education system. Local school board leaders who lead the local school systems are actually state officials. They have local features, right? They have authority within the state system that Dr. Wright leads to really bring that local context into schools and ensure that the management day to day and the policy set to the local school system are done well. That's why we have local school superintendents and local boards. But at the end of the day, it's a Maryland public education system. It is not a specific county. The constitutional guarantee for a public school comes from the state, and so we take that very seriously. It's not like that in every state across the country. That's the promise here to children that we make in the state of Maryland. And look, we have amazing partners in schools, school systems across the state. We have amazing superintendents, school board. We've got people that are really volunteering most of their time. Some of them receive stipends, but that are so committed to ensuring that our children are well served. And we're working through a couple things in some parts of the state, but I'm confident that we will be able to work with all school boards and superintendents to best serve children.
William Ford again. Follow up on her question. Two-part very quickly. Could there be, lack of a better word, I don't know if it's punishment, harsh letter, strong words, for some of these school board members, school officials that don't follow the state law? And
potential. So we're going to follow those, and that's where we're focused.
We'll take one or two more questions and then wrap up. Go.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask also just about, since this administration has started and some of the regulations around ICE or guidance around ICE visiting schools has changed, what have you heard from local superintendents about their interactions? Is there still any concern about that? I know a few Montgomery County students were deported. Just anything you can share about what you've been hearing on the ground about that would be helpful.
Yeah, I do think that it's really context dependent. You're going to hear more from certain districts than you are from others simply because the population is different. I'm hearing less than I did in the fall. I think that, or the spring actually. Well, fall and spring was really when it kind of was more of an issue, more spring, I guess, than fall. I think that was when I think the anxiety level was higher. We then put together a lot of guidance around what state law had to say around this issue, and really guiding the superintendents also to work with their local councils, because every local board and superintendent has its own set of attorneys that are advising on the implementation of law. So we wanted them to know what state law said about this. We gave them guidance on what to do if I showed up at the door, what were the legal proceedings that they were supposed to follow. So we've tried to give them as much as we can about the what to do in those situations. I'm not hearing as much of it now as I did earlier in the year. And that could also be simply because the superintendents are just handling it and not feeling the need to necessarily let us know.
All right, so Dr. Michael, earlier you said, and this is a question for both of you, earlier you said you're looking to see steady progress over the next decade as far as achievement is concerned. This will be the 5th school year since the blueprint was passed in Annapolis. How would you grade the blueprint so far, and why would you give it that grade?
Well, I'd say we're coming up on year 4, is that right, of full implementation?
Of full implementation.
And I would say in 4th grade, we don't really give serious grades yet. But I would say that we're making some progress. It appears when we look at last year's data, we're seeing steady progress in reading and math, and we'll see what the data suggests later this month. We're seeing steady declines in chronic absenteeism. It appears, and we'll see what the data says in September, we're seeing a stabilizing workforce. One of the things that we are looking at as a state, at the state board, is we're going to be looking for achievement in 2 ways. One, how is our average achievement progressing? But the second thing we want to know is what's happening to our different student groups. We have some of the largest achievement gaps in the country in this state. And so we're going to be looking not only at progress for the average student, but between student groups, looking at students who live in poverty versus those who don't. We're going to be looking at students, special education students, ESOL students. We're going to be looking at those gaps, looking at achievement by race and gender, and we're going to be looking at that carefully. So, like I said, we're in year 4, so a lot. I think the grade is we're in progress, and it appears that things are moving in the right direction, and so we're going to be looking carefully at the results that come this year. And we'll see where things go.
I'll add to that to say that what's been done in Pillar 1 with early childhood, I think, is phenomenal. I mean, the number of seats that we have opened up for pre-K, full-day kindergarten, the pre-K expansion, child care scholarships. I mean, there are so many more children that are now being able to go to high-quality early childhood programming because of the child care scholarship. It was probably one of the most amazing success stories in terms of the number of children that are impacted by that. I think that when you're talking, there's been some growing pains because I think we're doing things differently in terms of the financial end of it. If you think about Pillar 4 and the money following the children that are multilingual learners, students with disabilities, students in poverty, and that has been a financial shift, if you will, for some schools and some districts. And so there's a little bit of a growing pain, I think, there. But I think to me, it's just a matter of the logistics of getting it worked out, because I think what the blueprint had in mind was exactly that. Those are typically the children that need the help the most. That those weights that were given in the budget, that was what it was designed to do, so that there was more money to work with those kids that typically struggled more than any others in school. So for me, I think that's been tremendous. I think setting a North Star where Pillar 3 is concerned around making sure that our kids are college and career ready by the end of grade 10. We spent a lot of time making sure that CCR standard was what we wanted it to be, and we're still working behind the scenes to make sure that children are getting access to all the kinds of programming that they need to have access to in order to be college and career ready by the end of grade 10. I think the same, so you could kind of go through each of the pillars and see where the progress is. I think there's more progress that can be made. And I think what the state board has been really good about is coming alongside the blueprint and then and putting policies in place that also guide and direct those student outcomes. Because what we're bringing to the board in August is a set of outcomes that we're going to be monitoring across the entire state. And that's not something that we've done before in such a clear, transparent, and focused way. They're aligned to the pillars, no doubt, but they're outcome-based. So I look at the blueprint as kind of like an input, and then I look to see what are our outputs. And our outputs, to me, are what happens when it comes to students and teachers and leaders across the state. So that's a conversation that we're going to start having, and we'll be having on an ongoing basis with the state board. And I've got to say, the state board has been very clear-eyed in the policies that they want to pass and how they want those policies to impact core instruction. And so I think we're headed definitely in the right direction.
I should add the one leading indicator that I should have brought up, but when we think about early investments and early things working, there's probably no better indicator when we look across the country than 4th grade literacy. And we are seeing steady progress in literacy. Yeah. And this past year, we talked about it earlier in the year, but I think it's important to note, we went from 40th to 20th in 4th grade literacy when we compare to peers across the state. That's a big jump, it is promising. We've got a lot more work to do to get where we want to be, but all arrows are moving in the right direction. So we're encouraged, but we're not taking our foot off the gas at all.
We'll take a final question from Will Ford.
Okay. Well.
This is for you, Dr. Michael. Are you taking your 4.5-year-old daughter to school? And any advice for parents such as yourself who are taking their children to a school for the first time, and even children who are going to new schools?
I love it. So yes, 7:45 on, is it Monday, August 26th or 5th? Is it, what is it, the 5th? That's where I will be. I will be at Commodore John Rogers Elementary Middle School. And I will be walking in Caroline and Tessa. You can meet me there, Will. So some advice. Look, this is the simple things, right? In our house, getting to school at 7:45 is tough. You know, we often get there closer to 8, so, but we need to get there 7:45 to get breakfast. So, like, it's really important. So we are starting in our house right now of making sure that we get up earlier so that we're getting our morning routines done. So that's the first thing. It's like you shouldn't start that morning routine on the first day of school. That needs to happen a week or two now before, so that you as the adult are ready, so the kids can be ready. Because our young people, they're always looking to us for the cues, right? So if we're not ready to go, they're not going to be ready to go. So that's the first thing. Second thing is at home, we want to really create a child and school focused culture. So if we took a break from reading books every night, this is a great time to start that back up before bedtime. Making sure young people have a place that they can do their homework, whether that is a corner in the dining room where you keep your books and you work at the dining room, or a desk in their room, or a desk in the basement, or somewhere in the home where they know this is the place for your school stuff. And look, we have 3 kids, and we've got to be creative, and all families have to be creative about where to find that space to really, for each individual young person, about where they do their work and where they keep their things. Talking about school, right? School is not just about academics, it's also about interacting with other people and other adults. So starting those conversations, building friends now is exceptionally important. And then interfacing with school, right? So walking your child into school, into their class for the first few days is really important. And then keeping doing that, right? Once every week or two, walking into school to have an informal conversation with the teacher or the principal, the attendance monitor in the front office. Those are all really important things to do. This is relational work. So all of that work is important. Every school's got a back-to-school event, whether it's happening the week before or the week after the start of school. Attend back-to-school night. It's a great opportunity to show and to build those connections. So these are the things that matter. They seem simple, but they are so important in helping our children, 1, understand how important school is, and 2, that we just build that connection between home and school at the start of the year.
Any closing comments, Dr. Knight?
No, just excited about the year. This is always such a fun time. We've already got our back to school visits planned, and at all ages from pre-K through high school, and just a chance just to say thank you to all the teachers and leaders across the state who work so hard each and every day to ensure that our little ones, whether they are 4 or 14, are getting the education that they need and the support that they need and the care that they need. So just hats off to our educators. I've said it once, I'll say it again. You cannot thank a teacher enough. And they come in each and every day wanting to do their very best. So excited about this year and excited about our school visits.
Dr. Michael?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.